Hey, everybody, welcome to the USF Bulls football show here on FL Teams. I am your host, Jeff Macolino. Joining me this week is FL Teams contributor Grady Vickers. How are you, Grady?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And Grady, you were at Raymond James Stadium on Saturday, so you are more qualified than anyone to go ahead and I guess kind of walk us through Saturday's victory against Temple.
All right, great. Well, long story short, it was a very sloppy win, but a win nonetheless for us. So, I guess we get the highlights going here. Yeah, started off strong. Quick 17-0 lead about halfway through the first quarter. Looked like we were really going to run away with it. It didn't seem like there was anything that was stopping us offensively, defensively. Everything was clicking all the way through. And then, you know, out of nowhere, the offense kind of starts sputtering a little bit. The defense makes a few minor mistakes, and we find ourselves back into a one-score game. We get a field goal going into halftime, so still up two scores, 20-10 going into halftime, but definitely could have been a much bigger lead going into the half. And then coming out of the half, the offense was completely silent, absolutely nothing going on. Byron Brown really was struggling to hit his receivers. The defense, on the other hand, coming out of halftime, really performed well, kept us in the game for sure, kept the lead that we had. Amaris Brown, 2 picks, completely locked down his side of the field. And then, other than that, the fourth quarter, we got a crucial turnover right at the end, managed to kill 7 minutes off the clock at the end. Good running game, get us down the field to eventually Byron Brown could just kneel the game away. But it was definitely much sloppier than it should have been. We could have won the game by a whole lot more, but definitely a good foundation to start with.
Yeah, it seems, USF, aside from their win against FAMU, which maybe you could argue looked similar to this game, a little bit sloppy, even though they clearly were should have and did win the game. Most of USF's other wins this year have really been come from behind. Thing I always talk about is they battled adversity. Like maybe they're not used to winning, just being ahead and stepping on the throat of teams. And
Right.
maybe as we watch really the play of the game right here, the pick six,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
maybe that's just something that they haven't really learned to do. And this is just a step forward, not to excuse a sloppy game, but it was kind of surprising how the offense kind of vanished instead of really just stepped on the gas and blew them out.
Yeah, for sure. I think you make a good point. Coming off a 1-11 year, brand new head coach, whole new system. I mean, Byron Brown started a few games last year, but this is his first full year as a starter. So everything shifted. And I think to see the success of the team so far is really impressive. Uh, but I suppose you could say we're a brand new young program, young players, young coach, ready for a new foundation. And I think this is about as good of a start as you can have, even though it may be a little shaky.
Yeah, and in the game, you mentioned Morris Brown Bunkley had a couple of interceptions. Also, friend of the program, Sean Atkins, had 9 catches for 169. He already has become USF's single season record holder for catches in a year. He's now at 69 on the season. So a couple of big performances again from guys who have done it, like Atkins. And I would say Brown Bunkley is a guy who really hasn't. The defense as a whole, I would say, hasn't really shined this season, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so nice to see a little bit different, maybe, than the comeback shootout style victory, even though second half leads you a little concerned.
Yes, for sure. But I mean, like you said, good to see the defense step up. Really rough, especially last week, letting up 59 points against Memphis. To see them bounce back in this way was impressive and definitely uh, signs of hope for the remaining 2 games, maybe a bowl game, and then for next season as well.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we're looking at the schedule here. The next game is this Friday at UTSA. They are undefeated in the conference, 6-0 in the AAC, 7-3 on the year. That game's 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on Friday night. So get ready for a late night Friday. But
That's right.
that's gonna be a tough one. But as you mentioned, bowl eligibility, the Bills sit at 5-5. Their last game, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving, is home against Charlotte. The start time for that game has been announced at 7:30 p.m. It's on ESPNU, but if you're local, get your butt over to Raymond James Stadium to watch it. Like Grady was at the game covering it for FL teams, but not great attendance on Saturday.
No, unfortunately not. Would love to see it a little bit higher attendance, but only so much they can do for now.
Right, and you know what? Here's the thing, and it was a getting a noon game at this time of the year is really a rough draw. Here's the thing: this game, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, again, it's a 7:30 game, so you're done with all your shopping, all your other stuff, and the likelihood is I'm not saying that I'm not going to watch and root for the Bulls against UTSA, but the likelihood is that game against Charlotte is going to be a game to see if USF gets back to bowl eligibility for the first time in a while. So hopefully we'll see the fans show up, show out, and cheer on the Bulls.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to see them win one of those two games. A bowl game after coming off last season's terrible showing would be absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, and just to will and next week I'll talk more about Charlotte, but they're 3-7, they're 2-4 in the conference. It's one of those games that USF should win, especially being at home and having something to play for. Where Charlotte, they're 3-7, their season is basically already been their story's already been told for 2023. But the UTSA game, University of Texas San Antonio, gives us a chance to, again, kind of like the Memphis game last week, kind of gives us a measuring stick of the conference leaders and where USF stands. And Coach Galesh said it very well earlier this year when they lost to Alabama and played well. Moral victories are for losers. And that's kind of the same thing I'm thinking. Obviously, I'm not going to be happy, but if they're competitive like they were in the Memphis game, I think that just speaks volumes to what USF could do, moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. They've shown flashes of extreme spectacle. You look back at the Alabama game, you look back at the Memphis game. Alabama is a great team. Memphis is a pretty darn good team. So when you see the performances they're able to show out against those teams, I think UTSA, we have a better chance of really competing in that game than I think most people realize. And I think as long as we go out and put on a good showing, whether we win or lose, if we play well, we set up a good foundation for Charlotte and then hopefully a bowl game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope Byron Brown has a bit of a bounce back game this week and really shows, on a national stage, really shows up and shows out. And again, this guy is still just a redshirt freshman. So USF has a lot to look forward to. Bright future ahead. By the way, I got to mention Colorado probably not making a bowl game this year. Just a side note.
That's right. Only so much Dion can do, right?
Yeah. I'm not crying about getting Alex Galesh. I'm just saying. And it's not just because he was gracious enough to come on FL teams. So, all right. Well, again, USF in good shape. I think I said preseason, this team could get to 6 wins, and it's still looking on schedule. So we'll see. Big things ahead. A big victory, even though I know myself and a lot of USF fans wanted a little more convincing victory. A win's a win. We won one all last year. Let's not get too picky, huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's for sure.
So that'll do it. We'll be back next week, probably on Monday again, because if my throat wasn't dead, you would have had this show yesterday. But join us then. Make sure you're subscribed to FL Teams on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this. and all the social medias. Again, flteams.com, your top Florida sports source for both college and professional sports in the state of Florida. Grady, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. For Grady Vickers, I am Jeff Macolino. We will see you next week.